Great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Faryal. I'm a statistician, and I manage the data for Nowinitiative at the UN Statistics Division. I welcome you all to this workshop, which is part of this three-session inspiration workshop series with the idea to inspire all of you from bringing us various ideas and showcase experiences from countries on how they are implementing the work in their countries to address the information gaps to inform decision making. So today is the second session of the three session, which is on the use of innovative data approaches to meet data needs of decision makers. We had the first session on last Thursday and the last one on next Thursday, and all of the materials will be available on our website. The presentations and the recording for you to benefit from. Before we start formally, I just want to quickly share some housekeeping rules. I kindly request that if you're not the speaker, to please mute yourselves. And also, if you could turn your videos off if you're not the speaker, so that colleagues who have low internet bandwidth today can smoothly follow the session. But before I start, can I please request all of you who have joined to briefly share in the chat which organization and country you're representing for us to know who's in the room today with us. A little bit about the initiative. So the Data for Now initiative was launched in 2019 on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. With the core idea to support countries on the use of innovative approaches for more, better, timely, disaggregated data to inform decision-making. And it aims to develop countries' capacity to deliver the information needed, whereby the initiative supports countries in reaching their goals, in reaching their goals of the information needed to inform their national priorities. It's led by 5 core partners, including ourselves, the UN Statistics Division, which represents different data communities. For example, we have the Global Data Partnership, which is representing the International Civil Society. Then we have the Sustainable Development Solution Network that represents the academia, and so on. For UN Statistics Division, our core partners in countries are the national statistical offices, and through them, we work with various national and international partners to reach the national goals. But this would not have been possible for us to support without the support of our generous donors from Italy, Norway, the UK, Ireland, and our regular program for technical cooperation that enables us to support the countries. Without taking much further time, because we have a very interesting lineup of speakers, we will first have Martina, who will share about how we're using, how we can use innovative approaches to complement official statistics. And then we have practical examples from our countries, including India, Vietnam, Palestine, Tunisia, Ghana, and Uruguay. So thank you very much. Over to you, Martina.
Thank you, Faryal. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Martina, and I am an associate expert in statistics, and I'm part of the United Nations Statistics Division team that is working on the Data for Now initiative. Today we will speak about the use of innovative methods, tools, and sources, and how they complement existing official statistics. Next slide, please. So let's start with an essential question. Why innovative approaches? The answer relies on the opportunities that the innovation can bring to the table. So innovative approaches means utilizing sources that already exist to reach a level of detail that was difficult to achieve before. Innovation means also integrate traditional sources and non-traditional sources. For instance, integrated surveys and censuses with geospatial data, admin data, or mobile phone data. It's also important because we can We can capitalize resources from various entities and new partnerships. And through these relationships, we can maximize efficiency, and we can also build a strong commitment, a joint commitment. Innovative approaches also because they can unlock new data opportunities and they can uncover new insights and perspectives. Let's think about, for instance, at social media data. Through social media data, we can, for instance, understand more about the social sentiment, which is very difficult to measure with traditional data sources. Next slide, please. So these innovative approaches can help us to address the policy priorities. Why? Because through these approaches, we can reach a level of detail that can help us to target programs and policies. So policymakers, for instance, with more granular data can reach population difficult to achieve, like like hard-to-count populations, like migrants or people without an house. So those people that are missed out in traditional data collection methods can be captured through these new approaches. Also, these innovative approaches can help in provide data with less time lag for decision making. So data are more timely, and it can reduce also the cost associated with traditional data sources like surveys. Since surveys and censuses, of course, are efficient, but are also costly and time-consuming. Next slide, please. Now I want to show you something a little bit unconventional, I would say. This is a definition, but this is not an official definition. If you see, the source is Etsy. So Etsy is a marketplace where people can sell like handmade creative products. But when I saw this, I thought this is perfect to explain what we mean with innovation. Innovation for us is not only technologies, it's not only the latest technology. Is also the enabling environment that's behind the innovation. So it's very important that we think, when we think about using innovative approaches, that we need to have this ability also to use what already exists in ways that no one has thought before. And we also have this ability through these innovative approaches to see the bigger picture, connect the dots, create opportunities. And yes, of course, behind all of this, there is passion, faith, and willingness to work hard. Next slide, please. We are talking about innovative approaches, but does it mean that we can replace with these traditional approaches? The answer is clearly no, because innovative approaches don't replace traditional approaches, but can support and complement the traditional approaches, like the official statistics, like censuses and surveys. They can add value because they can fill gaps, they can improve the coverage, and they can improve also the availability and timeliness of the information, and also the level of disaggregation. And of course, traditional methods and approaches are important for data validation and for cross-checking data. Next slide, please. Here you can see some examples of innovative approaches in terms of partnership, data sources, methods, and tools. I can give you some examples. New data sources, innovative data sources that you can use are, for instance, geospatial data, data from the mobile phones, citizen-generated data. Some of the methods are, for instance, a small area estimation, the use of privacy-enhancing technologies to de-identificate the information and be able to share the data in a more confident way, preserving the confidentiality of the sensitive data. Machine learning methods or natural language processing methods. Some innovative tools like programming languages such as R or Python, tools that can be used for analysis like Google Earth or ArcGIS, and tools that can be used for data presentations or data integration, like ETL tools or dashboards. Next slide, please. Something that we always have to keep in mind when we use these new and innovative approaches is that we always have to link this with the official statistics. So it's very important to keep in mind the relevance of the fundamental principles of official statistics and the fact that the NSOs and all the producers of statistics have to adhere to these principles. In particular, principles related to the quality of the data, privacy and confidentiality standards. So in particular, Principle 1, Principle 4, and Principle 6. Next slide, please. Here there is a visual explanation of the process to implement these innovative approaches into the data process. So first thing that is important in this process is to identify what the user needs and what is the information needs in line with all the national priorities. The next step is to identify, based on these needs, what are the data gaps. And then we have to understand how can we fill these gaps. So we can understand also in this way the potential of the different techniques, methods, sources that can be applied in this case to fill our data gaps. And last steps is to map the potential data producers or partners related to this kind of data sources or methods or approaches that we want to use. As you see in the picture, the data ecosystem is very big, is wide. So we have to keep in mind every time that we implement these new approaches that we live in a world that comprehends also other producers of official statistics, all the governmental institutions and administrative data holders. There is the data community, so big data, geospatial community, NGOs. And of course, the most important part in this data ecosystem are the users, because the users really define the needs. Next slide, please. I want to give you now an example of the use of innovative approaches in Bangladesh related to SDG Goal 1, no poverty. So the data need in Bangladesh was the reduction of the percentage of population living below the poverty line, and it was part of the national priorities. Poverty at the time was measured using a 5-year-old yearly household income and expenditure survey. And this survey provided direct estimates, but only at division level. So the need was to have more frequent and disaggregated data, also at district and sub-district level. And this is essential for targeting policies. Next slide, please. What was the response to this? So Data for Now organized a series of workshops with line ministries and also civil society to identify what the potential data sources could be to support these new estimates. So the data sources that have been that Data for Now included were earth observation, telecommunication data, or administrative data. Bangladesh also worked establishing an high-level steering group on poverty statistics, and this group guided the data acquisition and production. And there were some workshops held with the National Statistical System on small area estimation, which is a method to estimate in small areas. Of course, during this workshop, they also explored other non-traditional data sources and other techniques. Next slide, please. What was the outcome of this workshop and all this work behind this? So in 2022, the NSO in Bangladesh was able to develop a poverty estimation model using geospatial data, so using the nighttime lights and satellite imagery. Through this model, they produce initial poverty estimates. So the study area has been divided into small sections. And the poverty estimates have been calculated through machine learning algorithm. And the important thing here is that the algorithm was trained using also traditional sources like the household income and expenditure survey conducted in 2016. Next slide, please. Okay, and something very important is that after this estimation, after this model, the NSO was able to continue engagement with ministries and policymakers, and they also found opportunities to apply these techniques learned to other unmet data needs. Next slide, please. These are some examples of the work that Data4Now is carrying on in the Data4Now countries. And these are some examples of innovative and new data sources and approaches that we are using. So, for instance, we are using just stats information to estimate goals, indicators under goals like SDG 11 or 9 in Morocco, State of Palestine, Jordan, and Kyrgyzstan. In Tunisia, we're using mobile positioning data to estimate the internal migration and geospatial information to estimate environment indicators. Next slide, please. In Kenya, we're supporting the development of a user engagement strategy. In Sierra Leone, for instance, we supported the use of marine litter data through citizen science to estimate the pollution of the coast. And we are also using admin data to estimate some indicators under goal 13 and goal 16. Next slide, please. The work of Data4Now is also on cross-cutting themes, like, for instance, the modernization of IT architecture infrastructure, or the use of different sources like admin data, as I said, or statistical and geospatial information. It's also about strengthening the capacity of national staff to engage with the users and also to develop roadmap with other institutions. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's it from me. If you have any question, you can write to me. It is my email. And if you want to know more about the work of Data4Now, you can scan this QR code where you will find stories to learn about how countries are leveraging these innovative methods. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Martina, for sharing why innovative approaches are important. And as Martina said, it's not only about putting the technical aspects to youth, it's about the enabling environment, bringing the right people together who share the expertise and the different data sources that can be brought together to meet collective goals. For my next presentation, I will pass on to Yusra from Tunisia. One of our colleagues from Palestine is having connectivity issues, so we will come back to that later. So with Yusra is from the Ministry of Agriculture in Tunisia, and we have been working with them over the past years to support on the use of geospatial data to assess change in water ecosystems, together with the National Statistics Institute and other ministries in Tunisia. Over to you, Yusra.
Thank you, Feriel. Good morning, everyone. So it is a pleasure to talk to you today about the use of satellite imagery data to assess changes in water-related ecosystems in Tunisia. So the next slide, please. So I am a water sciences engineer and the head of the Studies and Monographist Service at the General Directorate of Water Resources. The attribution of our directorate are monitoring water resources, conduct studies to evaluate water resources, develop methods to manage water resources, and also we promote research and experimental projects on conventional and non-conventional water resources. And finally, we design plans for mobilizing and using water resources efficiently. Next slide, please. So to provide you with a comprehensive overview, I have structured my presentation into 6 key points. The first one is the importance of indicator 6.6.1, the methodology used for its calculation, the challenges with the final solution, after that the results obtained, then practical recommendations aligning them with Tunisian priorities, and finally the conclusion. Next. So to begin, indicator 6.6.1 measures the evolution of water-related ecosystem, including the extent of lakes, rivers, wetlands, aquifers, and coastal water. So in Tunisia, water ecosystems are particularly significant due to their crucial role in food security, drinking water supply, and the resilience to climate variability. So here, human activities such as urbanization and agriculture directly impact the health of aquatic ecosystem. Additionally, also the effects of climate change. So we need a robust monitoring of these ecosystems to inform policy decision and adapting strategies to future challenges. Next slide. So during the first campaign in 2017, we identified various hydrological entities such as water bodies, dams, wetlands, rivers, and aquifers. This identification was based on the online geographical platform developed under the CRITE project. For the data collection, we have used water quality data from the National Agency for Environmental Protection, and for the water quantity data, we have used our data from our directorate. Next slide. In this slide, I want to show you some maps used to calculate the indicators. As you can see here, the first map is about the delimitation of our watersheds. After that, we have the maps of rivers, the yellow map about the delimitation of... Sorry?
Yusra, please go ahead. There was noise, but now it's all good.
Okay. After that, the yellow map is about the delimitation of our groundwater. We have also the other maps about our station of measures. And after calculation, go ahead. So after calculation, we have used the ArcGIS tools. The final results showed that the total area of aquatic ecosystems in Tunisia during the reference period of 2010 and 2015 was about 496.140 square kilometers. Next slide. So using this methodology, we faced several challenges that made it hard to apply the indicator. The first one is data gaps. So as the most recent data available was from 2015, and ecosystem variations since that period are not well documented. We have also financial and human constraints. We have limitation about our resources. Additionally, there were technical and organizational limitation, the lack of expertise in remote sensing and GIS, and finally, the lack of clear national process and methodology. So to overcome the limits we faced, we turned to alternative and innovative tools in partnership with the United Nations under the Data for Now initiative, which provided valuable insights and facilitated knowledge exchange. So we have used a fairly accessible platform that is Digital Earth Africa, which allowed us to generate regional estimates on water extent by using the Digital Earth Africa toolbox. We were able to gain a clear picture of surface water levels for each year. Next slide. After running the code, we obtained the following results for the entire Tunisian territory. So the graph on the left illustrates the observed annual water area for the baseline reference between 2000 and 2015. We can see significant fluctuation influenced by various factors such as rainfall, water management, and the climate variability. We choose this period as a reference because it contains dry and wet years, as well as average years. We calculate the median to compare other years to this value. So the graph on the right focuses on the reporting period from 2018 to 2021. We can see a fewer fluctuations. The data indicates a general decline in water extent. And the maps below provide special insights showing changes in water distribution over the years, with a clear comparison between the reference period and the reporting period. So finally, in the table, we have the median spatial extent during the reporting period was 1,148, and for the reference period, 1,187, sorry, and the 2% of change. Next slide. So here we have focused on the major river basin. We can show a significant fluctuation about the extent of the water extent in the major river basin. So we can observe a spatial variation over the time. Also here, the blue color is not visible, but we can see that are changed from a year to another. The next slide. And here, the top graph shows the observed annual water area during the reference period, with the maximum reaching 160 square kilometer in 2005, and in contrast, we have 120 square kilometer in 2019. So, and finally, in the table, we summarize the results. We have 18% of decrease in water extent in this river basin. The next slide. And after this work, several recommendations were proposed. First, we need to develop a methodology for calculating groundwater resource and integrate flow rates in engaged basins. Also, we focus on building a national dashboard to identify priority areas, monitor the impact of national policies, and we need to provide a strong scientific foundation for strategic planner. And also we need to engage stakeholders by make a national committee that will focus on calculating and monitoring this critical indicator. And finally, we need to ensure that the data we collect is integrated into our national policies. And next slide. As a conclusion, the use of satellite imagery data has proven in overcoming data scarcity in water resource management. Advanced methodology combined with collaboration and capacity building are essential for achieving the sustainable management of water ecosystems. By continuing to refine our approach and building stronger partnerships, we can work towards achieving SDG 6 and ensuring the sustainability of our water resource for future generations. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Yusra, for this very interesting presentation. And I just want to highlight some key points from Yusra's presentation, the importance of bringing the different partners together and making this work. And we not only, work with national partners to do that and achieving their goals, but also bring in international partners. For example, a very critical expert here is Digital Earth Africa, who supported Tunisia on the use of this open source Earth observation platform, which has a very valuable source of information and data that is not only used for this indicator, but many other purposes. Thank you very much. I now, for the next presentation, pass on to our colleagues from Palestine, Khalid and Ahud, who would be presenting on the use of geospatial information to, measure open public spaces, understand where they are, and then also understand the change in land use to inform their decision-making for urban planning. Again, it's a partnership between the Palestine Central Bureau of Statistics and other ministries, including the Ministry of Local Government. Over to you, Khalid and Ahud.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Ahud Anaya. I'm from the Ministry of Local Government, and my colleague Khalid Abu Khalid, he's representing the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics. He's online with us. I'll be sharing a few slides with you. So good morning or good evening, wherever you are. Next. So to start with, our objective of the initiatives was to support the decision-making at the national and local level. As you may all know, SDG 11 is really about the city level, sustainability at the city level. So it was very important for us to collaborate with the BCBS or the Statistical Bureau of in Palestine to support with the valuable data the decision-making process at both national and local levels. Data for now helped us to capacitate a multinational team to measure such spatial indicators. So to start with, what was the problem that we were being addressed? And I believe that this is something that will be common all over the area usually, which is the lack of data about urban expansion patterns, public spaces, and public transport. So these kind of things that are related to maps mainly, and that is different at the local level, was a concern to us because we didn't have such indicators that go deeply to that level. So the other issue was that in Palestine specifically, usually public spaces are often overlooked or underestimated by policymakers, citizens, and even by developers. So to us, it was a priority if we want to enhance the prosperity at the city level to know exactly what is going on at that level. The third issue, which is maybe very specific to Palestine, is that we have a complicity in our geopolitical limitation. We have illegal colonies, we have Israeli military sites located in our boundaries, and that was also something that we wanted to study and to find out what we can do in that regard. So why goal 11? It's because these 4 indicators that I mentioned before could address such a data gap. So we first worked with the ratio of consumption rate of population growth rate, Then we moved to the participation issue with our urban planning. The third indicator we worked with was 1171, which talked about safe and inclusive public spaces, open public spaces. And the last one we measured was 11.2, which talks about public transport for all, let's say something like that. Next. So the methodology we used was very simple, but at the same time was very cooperative. We started with the formulation of a team, and that team consisted of different levels in the government. The National SDGs committee, which was headed by the Prime Minister Office, was informed about our initiative. Two main institutions were the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics and our ministry, who is mandated on things that go with geography, was also part of the team. Ministry of Transportation was part of the team, and also from outside the government, we have the Association of Palestinian Local Authorities, which represent the interest of local authorities, was there. And we have also a technical partner, which is UN Habitat in Palestine and also from Nairobi. So these were our partners, and that was our team. Then we started by the capacity building with the support of Data for Now. When we had the knowledge, when we had the resources, the data resources, we did the sample selection, the analysis, and then the reporting and dissemination. Next, please. So to highlight certain issues, in terms of capacity building, what was special in that is that we used the on-job training. And we had a physical 5-day training course in Palestine. We hosted the experts from UN Habitat Nairobi and experts from Data for Now, who taught us hand-to-hand on information from our country itself. So we had samples that our young team was learning from. The other issue is that we had several online training or online meeting before that kind of training and afterwards. So we continued this kind of training, which helped very much if they have a certain difficulty to overcome it or to learn from it. The one who participated in that exercise were multidisciplinary team from GIS specialist, statistical specialist, urban planning specialist, and they were, as I said before, from different ministries and different levels, from the NGOs, let's say, and from the local authorities themselves. Next, please. In terms of sample selection, of course, if you live anywhere, you need a sample that is appropriate and representative for the case that you are facing. Especially that if you lack the financial resources, you cannot go to the a thorough kind of selection of all criteria. So what we did is that we have localities in West Bank and we have different kind of localities in Gaza Strip. So we sampled them according to region, north, south, west in each region. We also took into consideration the population in terms of sampling. So out of that exercise, we targeted 34 urban localities out of 137 urban localities that was subject to this kind of study. Next, please. Now, in terms of, as the Tunisian colleague said, we used open source data, but in our case, we used the Google Earth engine to get the satellite imagery. In 2000, we do the statistics every 10 years in Palestine. So one of them was in 2017. So we used that as a base, and we decided to have 5 years after, 5 years before. So we studied also the maps from 2012 and 2022. Our approach was that we needed one of these intervals to be real statistics from the ground, and then we could use the projections to make it more accurate. Sorry, I'm missing the presentation now. Hello?
Yes. Samira, are you still there?
Yeah, but I cannot
Yes,
see the
yes.
screen.
Yes.
Let me
Samira, are
present.
you able? Yes. Are you able to share
Can you
your
see?
screen again? No, not yet.
Okay. It was, okay.
I'm not seeing the screen here, so.
Okay, just a second, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. I can see it now. So mainly the analysis was for these three intervals for our attempt to understand the consumption of land in terms of urban planning and other issues. Next, please. Yes, thank you. So the challenges that we faced were very specific to Palestine, but maybe you could interpret it into something else in other countries. But in our case, if you look at the map shown in these circles, in the blue circles, we have Israeli colonies which are consuming the land. We also have camps which are Palestinians refuged from other places in different wars inside the city itself or in the urban area. So we had to include and exclude certain kinds of things according to what we are doing. And in the middle of our work, the Gaza war broke. So we have to also stop our work in certain areas. Next, please. I don't want to concentrate on this one because it's very specific. So in terms of what we did in other indicators, you could see from the map, from these issues, we studied the public routes. And we calculated that at a certain sample in the same methodology. So I want to repeat what we have done. And we have published that for the localities that were targeted. We could go back later on to that slide and publish that. We also, could you please leave it on the one with the three maps? Yes, thank you.
Okay,
We
sorry. Thank you.
We also calculated and published the information about the public usage in these areas and the affected areas. And you could see from the map itself, the city that was darkened will easily know where it's not giving its services to citizens now. The third indicator was stopped due to war because the responses were very low and not sampled enough to represent the indicator about participation in urban planning in general. So to go back to the slide that you skipped. No, two more before. Yes, that one. Thank you so much. So, no, after. I'm so sorry, but yeah, thank you so much. So we have learned a lot of lessons. I tried only to put the ones that could be common with other countries. So the first one is that it's a key issue that you have multi-institutions in your work. The one who have the information, the one who could use this kind of information, or the one who could be part of the advocacy for this kind of information should be part of your team. So that was one of the lessons learned I wanted to share with you. The other issue is that keeping the decision takers, not the decision makers, the decision takers informed. What we did with the other institutions, that our ministers were always knowing what we are doing and what step have we reached to. So that was very important for us to ensure that what we are doing is being taken seriously by the different levels of the teams. The third issue was that the capacity development is very important to us, and also the open sources that are available online were very important to us to learn from. Before that exercise, we didn't know that we could really articulate a lot of these kind of open sources to get the data. Now, in terms of results, of course, we have a better decision making. One of the things that we are proud of, that we in 2024, which is 1 year or few months after the data was published, we were able to have our inclusive public spaces for local authorities endorsed by the government at the local level. So we were, this is one of the impact that we have immediately after we use that kind of data. Of course, the demonstration of the gaps in the streets, in the distribution of public spaces, in the urban expansion will help us in the future in our planning. Next. The one afterwards. Yeah. In terms of recommendation, the one before. In terms, this is my last slide. So in terms of recommendations, we see that in our country and in other countries that we should make sure that we have periodic kind of reporting for these kind of indicators if we want to build a sustainable kind of information that could be used by decision makers. The usage of data in studies by universities, by others. So the dissemination of information is very important. And also, as I said, we have a coming planning period 2025, 2027. So we will be using this kind of data in our planning processes, whether we are at the national level or at the local level. Also, this data will feed the voluntary national report, especially on the SDG 11. And of course, it was relevant to a lot of work that we are doing. As many countries, we endorsed the SDG 2030, and we are trying to compare ourselves to other countries to see that we are not left behind, although that we have all of these kind of struggles that we face. So in conclusion, filling the data gaps is a key for a successful planning and implementation. And also it's very important for us as countries to compare, to share information, and even to compete with each other in terms of how we go into in terms of leaving no one behind. With that, I finish. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Huth and Khalid also. I know it has been a joint effort to work on these indicators, and it's very really good to see how these have been being used for decision making. I want to now pass on to our next speakers. And before that, if you have any questions from our speakers, I kindly request you to write them in the chat. And then towards the end, I will pick some of them for our speakers. But in any case, I also recommend if the speakers could respond to those questions to the extent possible in the chat as well. Our next speaker is from Vietnam, Vietnam's National Statistics Office, which is the General Statistics Office of Vietnam, Ms. Ha, and who would be sharing her work on the use of small U estimation to measure child poverty and food insecurity. And if I cannot emphasize much that it is inevitable that when we use innovative approaches, we do come across challenges, and how we overcome is that's really something that we are open to, and we work with countries on supporting and finding solution to those as well. But that shouldn't limit us from using these innovative approaches. We just have to find ways to address that by either complementing by existing data or improving the methods as we move along in the national context. So I'll pass on to Ms. Ha for the next presentation. And thank you, Samira, for helping us navigate those slides and putting all of this together. So Samira is going to share in a minute, but Ms. Ha, over to you. If you could start with your introduction, please. Ms. Ha, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I am here.
Okay,
can you
great.
say with the presentation?
Yes, it's being uploaded. And if I can kindly request you to cover your presentation in 10 minutes, we have a few more presentations, and then we also would like to leave some time for questions from our attendees towards the end. Okay. Over to you,
Okay.
Ms. Ha.
Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Ha. I'm Deputy Director of Agricultural, Forestry and Fisheries Statistics Department of General Statistics Office in National Statistical Office, and I'm a focal point of data for National Initiative in Vietnam. And as my objective of my presentation is about the application of small estimation techniques for the more disaggregated estimates for multi-dimensional child poverty and food insecurity in Vietnam. Next week. In Vietnam, we chose the two priority under the data for now initiative. And the first, I think Vietnam is now to reduce the poverty among the children. The children more in very important for Vietnam because as it know and it's more than 50% of the citizen in the under the 20 years old, and now the children in the upgrade. So more the geographically disaggregated multi-dimensional poverty in children in the now in identified as the key data needs to decide the target policies to reduce the poverty, especially for the poverty among the children. And the second, we choose the priority area in the food security. Now in Vietnam, we export a lot of the morality of the agriculture. So some people live in the mountain area in maybe to not to have the food or the ground. So maybe the government want to improve the availability, aggregation and frequency of food security measure through the food insecurity experience found by the methodology done by the FAO to identify as the key data need to improve food insecurity in Vietnam. Now in the Vietnam, we have to identify the importance of estimates of child multi-diversity and the food insecurity indicator. This graded as a provincial or district level. However, the estimation of child multi-dimensional poverty and food insecurity indicators as the level of not straightforward. Data on the indicator was collected in sampling surveys, and maybe the data only to estimate for the regional level. And for the for now, the UNSD to organize training on the small the estimation for to index the SDG 1 to 2 and rest of children in multi-dimensional poverty, and the second SDG 1 to rest of food insecurity. Now we have the two kind of the training. The training was as a national content hired by UNSD and thanks to the Sariga Farian and some of the colleagues from the UNSD to hire the training instructor. He is good for the for a teacher, and we organize the two training course. The training one is the basic for broad audience, and the class 2 in funds for less trainers selected from class 1. And next slide. For the class 1, we invite the people from the line military and the university and research institutions, and we use the data from the Vietnam population census done by the GSO in 2019. And we chose household living standard surveys in the data done by the GSO in 2020 and 2022, and the geog pattern data. And after we have the class 1, we have the training and have the channel to try to update the data and how to estimate the two indicators. After we finish the class 1, we have the reason for all the yes, and choose the 22 participants selected from class 1 to continue to attend the class 2. Class 2 in maybe to organize to find the deeper estimate, to use the estimate methods to produce estimate multi-dimension child poverty and food insecurity indicators at the provincial level. And the data, we use the data same the class 1, and addition, you use the 2022 midterm rural and agricultural survey and your partial data to compare the data for the living standard survey. Next slide. For the class 1, we have the fundamental by the estimating units level as area level methods, and data we use the same the data. Next
Sorry,
slide.
Yes, it's the next slide, please, Samira.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The solution phase for the access the survey database in sensitive, because we only to we have the all of the data from the surveys, so we only to choose the 3 surveys very important for estimate the 2 index, and we choose the selection qualified Chinese because the Chinese almost come from the GSO in they have the experience on the collected data, and maybe we use the IT. You have the more information. You have the experience on the IT techniques, and we choose the stakeholder involvement. Example, the Chinese from the university of Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, who come from the college and university by the subject of the statistics subject, and the training content in very difficult, complicated, why and overloaded, because maybe the training has I think when the training happen, the teacher in help the trainer hand in hand for estimate the reason. The application in daily work is still very limited because the trainer only to done by 1 week, for the solution implemented. I think the work in zero to get sufficient sample of survey data for training purpose. And work is zero in a list of trainees cover all related department of zero stakeholders such as the Ministry of Labor and the Ministry of Agriculture and Development, university with statistical department and related research institution. Follow up the training registered and make the relevant depleted. We consultant meeting with the FAO and UNICEF in Vietnam on the position of the training preparation and training participation. I think in the organize the training course in very good because the class 1 is the basic training and the class 2 is the advanced. So the trainer to more to have to collect the experience and collect the knowledge in continue. And detail of training manual is with some example for the practice. Next slide. For the reason, thanks to the special from FAO on the supporting training course on the updating estimation method for the food insecurity. After that, we have the estimate the rate of food insecurity in the process of improvement. We continue to find the auxiliary variable to compare the result from the direct techniques by the FAO to the methodology. And the rest of the multi-try at the provincial level was supported by the GSO approval and application, and thanks to the UNICEF and the World Bank. And now GSO has a core group of staff who can to confidently apply small area techniques to their daily work. And now to thank to Professor Patial Lahiri from the John program in survey methodology to have the suggestion for the result of the two index done by GSO. And now we have the process to give a right community to get the suggestion on the result, and so maybe to this year in 2020-25 we have the release the result. Next slide for the recommendation and next step. Now GSO and National Statistical Office to continue to promote the small area estimated technique for the open the subject for the technique for daily work, and use of R in the application of this method and the preparation of official manual of estimation. And I think that UNSD to provide the continuous technical support to country, especially in Vietnam. Okay. And next step, for the conclusion, now the some of the project, some of the activity done by Vietnam and supported by the UNSD to now to nearly to finish, and maybe the UNSD to support have enhanced GLO capacity in the small area estimation application, and my boss and yeah, and think that it's good for the Vietnam, food for the GLO, and food good for the statistics in GLO to enhance to improve the techniques and improve the experience and improve the knowledge on the estimate technique. For the now we GLO to change the data, to change the survey, maybe to use more techniques for the estimate for the reason for the provincial level. And it includes expansion for use method and tools for meet the data needs on decision maker. Because it's decision maker in Vietnam, the decision maker to have to in the provincial and maybe to district level. And that's it. Yeah. Have you any question? I can to translate. And appreciate and contact them. We highly appreciate this effective support from UNSD through the Data for Now initiative. I would like to express our deep gratitude to the Italy and Norway government for funding initiative activity in Vietnam, and we strongly to hope that continue to receive the similar support in the future. And maybe you can talk with me. I had to say experience and result for the using the small area estimated technique or this multi-dimensional property and the food insecurity in Vietnam. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ha, for that insightful presentation. Again, if you have any questions from Ms. Ha, I kindly suggest if you can put them in the chat. We do have 3 very interesting presentations, and we're quite tight on time now, so I would request the next speakers to please keep their presentations short. We have a presentation on the use of citizen data, on use of social media data, and a third presentation from Ghana to speak about how to assess the training needs within the country to respond to this, to use of innovative approaches and other needs in the country. So for the next speaker, Samira, if I could have the next slide, please. We have Annie from she's the director of the Center for Social Equity and Inclusion, and she is the national convener of a civil society space of Wadana Todu, if I say it correctly, Annie. And we're very excited to hear from you on how you're engaging with the citizens to respond to their needs. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Faryal and Samira, and also all the other people who are on this session. The next slide, please. Yeah, so as Faryal said, I work specifically with one civil society organization, but I'm part of a larger collective called the WNTA, which is a platform of over 3,000 civil society organizations in India with a focus on the most marginalized communities. So when the SDGs and the Leave No One Behind was evolved, for us, the most important thing was the Leave No One Behind principle behind it. Particularly also because there are large population groups in India which are not adequately represented in the national data sets. So we were very keen to gather citizen data from these communities and have conversations with the administration and local governments to see how specific disadvantages and challenges can be addressed. So the campaign, in short, I'll just say WNTA. So we feel that given the complexity and diversity of marginalized communities, it becomes very important to have data at a very hyper local level. Large data sets tend to overlook them. So if we can have citizens collect their own data in their own local communities and then be able to analyze it, represent it with the local authorities, there is a better understanding of the challenges they face, the drivers of inequalities, the lack of access, the barriers they have. So this was our premise on which we started this whole citizen data processes. And we have over the years done citizen data with extremely vulnerable indigenous communities, Dalit communities, fisher communities, forest communities. So this has been since 2018, we have been part of this process. The next one. So I just want to take one particular example that we did in 2024. In India, there is about 10% of our population belong to communities that are called nomadic tribes and denotified communities. These, I mean, if you in numbers, they would be about 10 million people. It's not like a small number. But this group has been extremely vulnerable, not categorized by the government. They are very scattered. They have also been a stigmatized community. They continue to do traditional occupations like cattle grazing, snake charming, acrobatics on the road, various very traditional occupations, and continue to live without homes. And because they are not recognized as one common category, there is no specific policy recommendations or budget allocations for them. They hardly figure in the political discussions also. So in 2008, for the first time, the Prime Minister's office had commissioned a study on this community by someone who came from the community, and that was the first time that information came out about them, saying that 98% of them do not own any land. They do not have permanent houses. A lot of them live on the streets, keep moving from one place to the other. And one huge problem for them is that they do not have identification documentations. And so there's very little political significance and influence that these communities are able to push with the government. The next one. So I really want to say that there is, this is one of the most marginalized communities, if I would say in India. And with very little agency of their own, with very little access to state provisions, very little data on these communities. So we had two objectives when we started the citizen data with them. One was to gain evidence, generate data on these communities in specific locations. So for that process, again, because these communities have diverse languages, they keep moving about and they do not trust outsiders so much. So you really need to go through community leaders with whom we've had some engagement. So the first process was identifying community leaders in specific locations who would anchor the data collection process. Again, literacy level is very low, access to technology is very low, so you find it difficult to identify volunteers. So you identify then volunteers. In this process, we had about 16 volunteers, both male and female, more men than women, because the literacy level of women is much lower. And then we worked with these volunteers and the community leaders to identify what are key challenges that they face, particularly the challenges about identification documents, the challenges about police violence, the challenges about stigma from other communities. These came up, and even, what do you say, the domestic violence, alcoholism. These were some of the challenges that came up, lack of education. So we do identify a set of key challenges that the community would like to generate data on. After that, it is building a quantitative survey method with them, training the volunteers on the survey, and doing it virtually through mobile phones and tracking it regularly through on a day-to-day basis, so that the data is verified, it is robust. After the data is collected and after a basic analysis is done, there is a feedback mechanism with the community volunteers to understand whether we've really understood the data and what it is basically telling us. At the end of that process, we do make a small policy brief with the key issues. So that's like really the data and the evidence generation process that we engage with these communities. The next one. So if just to sort of give you a little bit of the data of 400 households that we did in this one of the states of India, we found that 69 male adults have never gone to school. 69%, 86% of female adults had never received any schooling. They do not even receive the common food support that the government provides. Birth certificates, other documents are extremely difficult for them to access because they don't have a permanent address. And most of the government schemes actually bypass them. So this is really the kind of challenges. And if you look at even simple things like, while India has, almost about 70% of children who have a birth certificate, in this community, it is less than 20%. Similarly, when literacy is 72% in this community, you see that 70% are not even ever gone to school. So this is the level of inequality that you find between this community and the others. The next one. So the next process for us is because, like data has to have some meaning to the people. It's not just enough to understand. So we also take the next step of supporting these volunteers to actually use the data and the policy brief that we have made, to have conversations with administration, to have conversation with locally elected governments, the local governments. And then identify families that need specific provisions, and then bring them to the government, take the government to their communities. So there is a whole process of social mobilization that we engage with, so that at least some of the community members are able to see that this data makes a difference for them, that they can access some government schemes, and through creating such data and evidence base. The next one. So through this process, in this 1 year, the local volunteers have met with 50 plus local government functionaries. They have helped 150 households to apply for some of the government benefits. 16 community volunteers have been trained in gathering data and also social mobilization. And there's been a lot of visibility that has been built with this community. And happy to say that we've just had this discussion on the voluntary national review, and the government has agreed that this can be one of the communities that we focus in the voluntary national review. So I just want to say that this process has created some level of visibility for these communities. The next one. I'm just going to finish. Yeah. So over the last 4-5 years, I mean, we as a network has done over 45 communities. We've done citizen data through the community volunteers, and we've been able to build networks through it, reach out to the government. During the pandemic, actually, UNICEF came to us to do a community-based monitoring of almost 15,000 households across 32 districts using the same volunteer method. So I would say that it has become quite feasible for us as a community to understand marginalized communities. The next slide. Next slide. Yeah, so I mean, for us, the big challenge is that to get the state to move on this data, that's our biggest challenge. And the Ministry of Statistics to really acknowledge that this data can be useful. We've made a small start in having a meeting with the ministry. So I think to have citizen data as one data that can really provide complementary, supplementary information for policy influencing is something that we would like to take forward. And also where the UN is concerned, to really be a coordinating organization that can bring the civil society and UN and other ministries on a common platform. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annie. This is very inspiring also to, involve the key people who need that support. So thank you very much. If you have any, again, questions from Annie on how, they led the process, please write in the chat, and Annie can follow up if possible. So we will go 15 minutes over time, but if any colleagues have to leave who are attending, this session is being recorded, and all the presentation will be available on our website that we will share with all of you after the third session. So thank you for your patience with us. So for the next speaker, we have Federico from Uruguay, who would be talking about the use of mobile phone data to address particularly or estimate migration statistics, and their experience and process that has led to their work. Federico, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fayal. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Federico Segui. I'm Deputy Director General of the National Statistical Institute of Uruguay. I'm also in charge of this project. Next, please. Next slide. Next. We started this project. I mean, the production of experimental statistics using administrative records, privately held administrative records from the mobile network operators. Called detailed records. That is the correct name. And the objective was to provide updated and high frequency information to the National Emergency System, this agency, SINAE, during the COVID-19 pandemic and other disasters, and was the first experience of the NSI of Uruguay in working with this kind of information. Also, one of the first in the Latin America, the Caribbean region. Let's see the rationale. Of course, analyze population mobility during disasters. Also generate more frequent mobility statistics at a lower cost. Make estimating in small areas. Strengthen capacities for planning sustainable urban mobility. Immigration and tourist statistics. In fact, the Ministry of Tourism is publishing statistics based on this information, and also basic population statistics for planning for the population census, monitoring of population fluctuation, and urban planning. Next slide, please. This is the market share of mobile phones subscribed by MNO. At this time, maybe Antel, which is the public company, has more than 50% of the market share. We have 3 MNOs in the country. Next slide, please. This is the data that we got so far. So it's a origin destination of overnight activity matrix from this public company, Antel, which is the main company. We couldn't get information from the other two till now. We are in this process. You may see the matrix has 6, 7, or around 6 columns. The province and municipality of origin or overnight, and then the destination province and municipality, and the number of mobile cell phones that have moved from one area to the other. Next slide, please. Let's see some definitions on the methodology. The overnight stay, when the cell phone stayed for at least 4 hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. during the night before the reference day. The primary activity, we call primary activity, when the cell phone was in use for at least 3 hours between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. on the reference day. And the periodicity is Wednesday and Sunday, 2 days per week, and monthly delivery. Next slide, please. We have some snapshots of our dashboards. In the top of the screen, you may see that one map. You can click on one area, on a municipality, and below you have other map with the destination, the main 5 destination areas, and also on the right side you may see a ranking in descent order of the destination areas. Okay, and other information. Next slide, please. You have once you click on one of the area, you may see other information on the origin or overnight area. Next slide, please. Other matrix, this origin destination matrix, maybe it's confusing. A lot of flows, but you can zoom in and you may see the origin and destinations areas. Let's learn lessons and challenges involve the regulatory. The name is URSEC. They are in this process. They help us, and also they are prepared a regulation to make it mandatory for the MNOs to share the data with them, and then with the NSI, with us, and also creating incentives for them. Could be pay for data. It is not in our plans. Share market share information for them, and information from the MNOs with our continuous household survey and other business surveys, and provide technical systems. And next slide, please. The strategy is to achieve a sustainable agreement or partnerships, take advantage of the particular case of Uruguay, which Antel is a public company, and approach to private MNOs through the regulator, and make data requests for statistical purposes or for research from public institution or university through the NSI. Okay. Next, I think it's the last one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Federico. And I think what is really interesting, this journey to get to the point to even receive the data from one telecom operator, and I know it's a long journey. So I think the key area that we've been working with Tunisia, Federico, similar to on the social media, on the mobile phone data to measure internal migration, is how to bring the different stakeholders, the Data Protection Authority, the telecom regulators, the mobile network operators. So how do we brokerage that partnership in order to make it happen is a long journey. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Again, if you have any questions, please write in the chat. I do see some question from Regina as well on the inclusive data process. Regina, if you could clarify in the chat, and Annie can respond to you accordingly. Thank you very much. So our last and not the least presentation is from Elizabeth from the Ghana Statistical Service. So here we would like to hear how countries are assessing their capacity to respond to these evolving statistical needs. Also, because many times we have the capacity within our organizations that we can mobilize to use these innovative approaches. So how do we map them out? And if there is a gap, how do we find where those gaps are? So Elizabeth, over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Faryal. And good afternoon, good morning. It is a pleasure to talk to you today about how you can leverage the STAT tool for countries to assess their capacity to. Hello? Okay, so it is a pleasure to introduce to you the STAT tool and how countries can also assess it and use it to assess their capacity to respond to evolving statistical needs. I'm Elizabeth. Please, the next slide. I'm Elizabeth Bafuboni. I'm from the Ghana Statistical Service. I'm a member of the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Professionals. I've been practicing human resource for the past 15 years in the public and also the private sector. I'm currently with the Human Resource Directorate of the Ghana Statistical Service, and particularly with the performance management and training and development. Before the implementation of the STAT tool, Ghana Statistical Service identify various needs and also gaps in the performance of staff. And that informed the decision of rolling out on or conducting a needs assessment. And some of the reasons why we decided to conduct a needs assessment is to consolidate various capacity building programs within the service, and in order to eliminate cost and also utilize resources. We noticed that a lot of training programs within the service is more of supply driven more than demand driven. And how then do we consolidate all in order to have a holistic training plan to guide the vision of the service, and order to also to scout for training resources and collaboration? How do we network with other international institutions and also other NSOs in order to identify what they are doing, or also to identify what technological skills is being practiced, is being utilized in order to produce quality statistics. We also identify peer learning capacity approaches among the NSOs, and also we also want to integrate a holistic approach that addresses both individual and both soft and hard skills. Then also define the capacity building output through alignment of training programs. We noticed that most of the training programs within the service was more of individual approaches, that people were using approaches that suits their directorate, and there wasn't a holistic or a defined strategy that guides in implementation of trainings and also timing of trainings in the institution. And this, please, the next slide. And this informed our decision in coming up in having a communication with GIST, which is the Global Institute for Statistical Trainings, on how best these gaps can be identified properly, because although we are seeing gaps in the system, there should be a needs assessment. There is a need for an assessment to be conducted to really identify the needs of individuals and also the institutions and the NSS that we are working with. So based on that, the service implemented the STAT tool. I'm going to talk to you about the STAT tool. The STAT tool is also known as the training assessment tool, the statistical training assessment tool. It was developed for National Statistics offices to assess and analyze skills gap of their staff, and also strategically decide on how to prioritize and meet training needs by using different methods. So it's also proving to be the ground for staff to do a self-assessment and also reflect on their skills, how staff can build their individual skills in aligning to the organizational goals. And also it also helps, we see it as a career mirror. It's a career mirror which guides you in how to build your competencies and also how to utilize it in order to achieve an organizational goal, and also how to gain support from international institutions. Please, can we move on? Now we ask, what does the tool has to offer to us? There are three major things that the tool has to offer. First is to identify gaps and needs. The tool contains 3 questionnaires. One individual NSO needs assessment questionnaire. It also has the institutional needs assessment questionnaire, and also has the NSS, which is institution within the National Statistical System, also have their assessment questionnaire. In the individual questionnaire, it's geared towards more of self-assessment on your current skill and the training needs that you need. So it has captured all domains within the statistical system. Then the institutional needs assessment also has the manager's assessment skills. It also talks about how managers can assess their skills and also their training needs for the future and now. Then we have the National Statistics System, which also National Statistics System needs assessment, which also talks about how institutions and ministry departments and public institutions can also assess their needs. Please, can we move on? Okay, so the tool. Hi, please, can we move on? All right, so as indicated, the tool also helps in prioritization of needs. It doesn't only identify the skills or the gaps, it also helps you to align, come up with a training plan. And it also guides in assessing the needs, guides you in which particular needs or which particular skill do you have to prioritize, or really is really important to you as at the time of filling the questionnaire, and also helps you to meet your needs. It recommends how this needs or how this needs can be implemented, and by suggesting training programs, both internal, and how these skills are of high relevance to you, the individual or the institution as a whole. I'm going to talk next, please. I'm going to talk to you about how Ghana Statistical Service has been able to come up with some outputs from the implementation of the tool. Please, next slide. Hi, Fayal. Next slide, please.
Yes, Samira, can you please have the next slide? Yes, here you go.
Okay, so we are going to talk about the tool. It has captured 157 skills in there, and staff respond then, as I indicated earlier, falls within different domains. So we have in the statistical field skill sets in there, and also we have the support. In Ghana Statistical Service, we have 2 domains, major domains in terms of operations. We have the statistical and we have the support, and this all this has been factored into the tool in order to help both every individual within the institution to assess themselves and come up with their skills gap and needs. Now, with the implementation of the tool, Ghana Statistical Survey, we've been able to identify and prioritize specific training needs in relation to job responsibilities. And we've been able to develop a holistic training plan based on staff categorization. And we've been able to build individual learning profiles, which is guiding in our promotion documentation currently. We've been able to identify different training methods based on the category of staff. And this, we can also attest that we've been able to do that with the 70-20-10 learning approach. And we've been able to map and integrate different training interventions. And we've been able to identify funding sources for specific trainings. With us drawing the training plan, we've been able to identify some trainings that can be facilitated internally and does not require much resources in implementation. We've also been able to come up with trainings that can be facilitated online. It can be facilitated online by international donors, and also which does not require much resources. Can we move on, please? Also, with the implementation of the STAT tool, we've been able to come up with a learning plan. We've been able to develop a learning strategy which guides us. We've been able to develop a learning strategy which also guides us in implementation of trainings and also learnings within the institution. We've been able to allocate time, and this we have been able to come up with a holistic training plan for the year. And the entire training needs or staff has been included in this plan in order not to be clashing. We have not having clashed of activities in terms of attaining the organizational goal for the year. We've been able to adopt, as I indicated earlier, the 70-20-10 learning approach, and also finalize an implementation of a comprehensive learning strategy. We've built a learning culture. This we have done through collaboration with Statistics Norway in learning from them how to go about in terms of training delivery. And we also rolled out the NSS questionnaire to 6 ministry departments in Ghana and assisted them in prioritizing their needs by coming up with a training plan for this individual ministry department. We've been able to support other NSOs in rolling out the tool and developing and guiding in developing a learning strategy. Example is the Kenya's Bureau of Statistics. We've been able to share our experiences on the STAT tool and also guide them in how we went about in developing our learning strategy, which has now been finalized and is guiding most of the MDAs that we are working with under the HISWA project. It is guiding them in implementation of trainings within their institutions. Next, please. Okay, so ongoing activities and next step in the institution, we are looking at onboarding all government ministries, departments on the STAT tool. Also, we are looking at bringing up other stakeholders in the NSS, that's academia, and we are looking at development partners and CSOs to onboard them on the STAT tool. We are also looking at establishing a holistic process of competency planning. Please, can we go back? A holistic approach on competency planning. And we are also looking at exploring and implementing technological-driven training delivery, considering the 70-20-10 learning approach. And we are also looking at standardizing training content. And this we are doing in connection with the 70-20-10 approach as well. We are looking at how trainings that are going to be informal, how then do we structure them? How then do we have a quality and recognize content that can help trainers internally, both internally or the MDAs in aligning their training programs. And also we are looking at implementing a structured programs that can nurture talents. This we are targeting our new recruits, and also how do we build successes for to train others internally. And we are also establishing a robust monitoring system. This we are developing in an internal learning management system. It's part of our agenda for 2025 that we are going to come up with an internal learning management system where we can share the SDG links in terms of capacity building that we have we have had the opportunity to have through the implementation of the STAT2. We are going to post them there for staff to visit the learning management system and have access to the link to foster self-learning. We are also looking at linking individual capacity to our annual appraisal forms and promotions internally. And also we are linking up building capacity building with value of work. One major thing that we are also considering is to conduct a needs assessment in the next 2 years using the modified version of the STAT2. In lieu of all these activities and plans that please can we move to the next, please? Hi, next slide, please.
Is it the challenges slide that you would like, Elizabeth? Which slide would you like to move to?
The next, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
so,
yeah. Go ahead,
yeah,
please.
Yeah. So with our experience, I had opportunity to assist statistics, Kenya Bureau of Statistics to roll out the STAT2, and based on my experiences, there was a transfer of knowledge. There was an opportunity to also share our experiences, how we went about in implementation of the STAT2, and one other important success that I noticed was also an increase of understanding on how the NSOs operate across countries. So one thing that I noticed is every NSO has a different culture in terms of learning, and this has also informed on how to implement the tool and how to go about with the learning strategy within the different NSOs. And also there was a high level of commitment in terms of continuous learning and also building a learning culture. And there was an increased commitment to bring on board other institutions within the NSOs. The one challenging aspect was allocating time for training, which I noticed runs through most of the NSOs, allocating time specific for learning, and also involving getting other stakeholders on board due to a lot of activities. And also trainings are more project oriented, and so that is supply driven more than demand driven within the NSO. Yeah. Please, can we move to the next slide? Okay, so benefits of STAT to other countries. It's cross-country comparison. You are able to compare your statistical operations systems with other countries to know what is happening out there and how best you can improve your own. It also provides an avenue for you to have collaborations, exchanges. We had the opportunity to have a peer exchange with Namibia to also assist them in implementation of the tool, and also to know internally how they go about with their trainings and also building the culture of learning. It's also strengthened the resilience in emerging needs also build staff capacity for institutional transformation. The tool also helps. It helps you to align your institutional transformation to the needs of individuals and also the organization as a whole. Also helps in using innovation and technology to drive training. I would attest to Ghana Statistical Service that with the introduction of the STAT tool and also the training plan, we've been able to structure our trainings in such that we are utilizing internal trainers, and also we realize that there are people in there that have more capacity in terms of using modernized tool. And one product that we've been able to that has been able to come out of the implementation of the STAT tool is we've been able to come up with a structured training in R, where we are utilizing our internal trainers to conduct this training. Then one also advantage of using and benefits of using rolling out the STAT tool is increased continuous learning and knowledge sharing. We've been able to have other institutions coming on board, sharing their experiences and learning from other institutions on what new things is happening out there. One other thing is also aligning training to individual and organizational goal. Now we've been able to come up, as I indicated earlier, come up with a holistic training plan that includes individual learning and also the organizational learning. So in all, I would entreat and I would encourage all NSOs and other institutions within the National Statistical System to roll out the STAT tool, because we have really benefited. We have really learned. The Ghana Statistical Service has really learned and really come up with product that is benefiting the staff. And we've had opportunity of people walking into the Human Resource Directorate and applauding us and telling us that they now have confidence. That and one thing that I forgot in adding to the slide.
Elizabeth, sorry to interrupt. Can I please request you to conclude? Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So please, let's move to the next slide. That's the end of my slide. One major thing that the confidentiality that is attached to the STAT tool has really made employees very confident in expressing their needs. And thank you. And for any further questions on the STAT tool, you can also email me through my email. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And so sorry to interrupt, but we're really ahead of time. I mean, it's really, I didn't want to stop any of the speakers from sharing their insights. So thank you. And I have shared the link of the STAT tool as well in the chat. And as I mentioned before, all these presentations will be available on our website, where you will have access to the email addresses where the speakers have shared them. If they're not, you can always reach out to me, and I will connect you to the speakers or partners with their permission, for you to even directly exchange with them to learn more about their experiences, and especially if you would like to implement the same approaches or contextualize it for your own countries. So we will have a third session next week on the modernizing of IT architecture, because when we're talking about different data sources, there needs to be a system which can efficiently integrate with different data sources for the evolving data ecosystem. We'll hear, similar to today, many examples. For today's session, I would particularly like to thank our speakers and their time. Annie, Duha, Elizabeth, Federico, Khalid, Ahud, and Yusra, thank you so much for your time and sharing insights. Unfortunately, we do not have more time to take more questions, but as I said, if you have any, please reach out to me. My email is on the website and the link that Martina shared in the chat, and I will connect you to the speakers. And as the next slide, if I can see Samira, if you're interested to collaborate, you can sign up to our newsletter to just get the updates. And we keep uploading various resources and experiences, data stories on our website, where countries share what they're doing and how they're overcoming challenges to address policy priorities in their countries. And if you would like to receive support from the United Nations Statistics Division under the Data for Now initiative, please reach out to me and I will come back to you as and when we have resources available. And the support that we do is really where the countries define the priority and we support them in reaching their goals. So it's about the country's journey and we support them in their journey. So thank you very much again for your time, and I hope you found these presentations useful, and yeah, you know where to find me. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Farial and all. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.